My name is Erik Van Horn. I bought my first franchise in my 20s, and since then, I've owned 6 brands with 25 stores in 8 states. I've also helped 1,000 people find the right franchise for them. People like us who are not cut out for the 9 to 5 and like to work smarter, not harder. How do we find the right franchise, buy it, grow it, sell it, and how do we do it in a way to own the business without it owning us? Those are the questions, and I'm on a mission to give you the answers. Welcome to Franchise Secrets. Welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Erik Van Horn here, and today it is just me, and I'm going to be sharing my story from 1 location to 12 locations with a franchise that I had 4 of us partners in called Sola Salons Studios. And there's some really interesting things that happened in the growth of that franchise, which we ultimately sold to private equity. But in the first 3 locations couldn't be more different from each other. And there were things that happened that if it would have been the first location or I haven't had a 3rd location in the books, lease signed, I probably would never have been able to get to 12 locations. So I want to share that with you. Hopefully, some of you find it encouraging, insightful, and helpful. Those of you, I am starting to do more live podcasts inside the Franchise Secrets Facebook group. So if you want to join me over there, you'll get access to some podcasts before they get released. I'll do them live. And that way, if you do have some questions, we can talk about them and I can answer them live on the chat. And I'll talk about it on the air. FranchiseSecretsGroup.com, FranchiseSecretsGroup.com. Go in there, answer the questions, and we will let you in. And there's over 800 people in there right now in all kinds of industries, but they're all related to franchising. Let me go back to my journey with Sola Salons. I first met the founders of it at a meeting in Arizona, and I was just intrigued with the concept. And this was a concept that was one of my favorite ones that I've owned. And we were coming out of the recession at that time. So I was just looking at an old Facebook post from somebody because I researched them, and they had a post on the franchising industry at that time. And it was way back then. And they were talking about the state of the economy at that time. They said, real estate's depressed. We think we're coming out of this recession that we've been in. And they were just going on and on about that. And I'm like, that's the exact same time, that time of complete uncertainty. We thought it was going to be getting better, but nobody was really sure. And we know now the end of the story, it was a great time to get in when I got in because we got great real estate deals. But reminds me of where we are today. It's like we think things are getting better. We don't know when or how, but there's this element of hope as we finish up 2020 and we head into 2021. That's how it was for me when we were just getting involved with Sola Salons. So there we were, bought 12 locations, or the rights to do 12 locations. It was me, my partner Dan, my partner John, and my partner Ryan. And we found ourselves in Orange County, California. I still lived in South Dakota at the time, where I still live today. And they were more local on the ground there. We all had the same vision with this. We didn't want to work very much. We wanted to build a big business, make money, and live our lives and do other businesses. And so that's what we set out to do. We opened up our first one. We negotiated the real estate deal. And at this time, just to give you some insight into how the partnership was working, we were very involved as partners. We made decisions together. We were looking at all the P&L stuff and all the projections and all the costs. And we would all be on the calls with the real estate people telling us the terms of the deal, and the builders, they were starting to build it out. And we were all hands on deck. And we signed our first lease. It was a really, really big deal for us. We had loans signed for 2 locations through the SBA. And so we were locked into our second location. This second location was supposed to be the best one out of all of them. Now, just to give you some insight on the first location, we had opened it up and it was average. So whenever you're out there looking at franchises, you want to know what average looks like, and you find out what average looks like. Well, we were average in location number 1. And we thought we were above average franchisees because we've all been that in different systems. So above average franchisees, average first location. There's reasons for it, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But second location, we were way below average. And this was a location that everyone said this is going to be like the best location for you guys. You guys are going to crush it here. This will be your most profitable, most successful, easiest location. And location number two was anything but that. So we'd built that out and we'd already signed a lease on our third location. And we had an inclination that this location number two was not going to be that successful because of how we were leasing it up and all the metrics, the KPIs of the business were not matching up to our expectations. But at this time, we had already had a lease signed on our most expensive location up to that point, which was location number three. So we couldn't back out. We just couldn't back out and we had to continue to move forward. And that's what we do in business. You just continue to move forward and go. And that's exactly what we did. So here we are. One location average, second location, you couldn't make any money. No matter how hard we tried, we were really good at losing money, bleeding money, not making money, things going wrong. There were all kinds of issues. And we opened up location number three. It was a complete opposite of location number one. We had, we couldn't do anything but make money to see cash flow. Just there's like printing money there at location number three. And so we looked at that. We're like, thank God we had location number three to pay for location number one, and it kind of all averages out. If you have a dog and a winner, it means you got two average locations, and now we had three basically average locations. Here's the thing, though, that's not even completely true because those of you that have a dog of a location or a dog of a business or in a certain area or department, that thing just sucks you down mentally. You just don't know if you're making the right decisions. It's very, very difficult. And we absolutely experienced that. As I look back at it with location number three, if that had been our first location, so if our best location had been our first location, we probably would have signed on six locations, like back to back to back, because we would have thought this model kills it. And we know exactly why when we didn't know exactly why. We thought we did, but we didn't. Looking back, I'm glad it happened the way that it did. I'm not glad that we lost money. And I hate it when people say, oh, I wouldn't change anything. If you're losing a bunch of money, you probably want to change something. I wish we would have made better decisions on location number two, but we didn't. So what do? You learn from it. And that's exactly what we did. We learned a lot from that particular location. So I hope this provides just some like real life insight into when you're building a franchise or you're building multiple units of anything and you have your first location doesn't do really well or your second location doesn't or your third location doesn't or maybe the roles are reversed, don't think that you are just know everything about the business because you had a first location that did incredibly well. That's a dangerous to think like that. It may not be completely accurate. At the same time, if you have a location that's struggling and yet other locations in the brand are doing really well, don't think that it's the brand because it might be something that you're doing wrong and it might be something that is you just need to learn. Like we just needed to learn and that's exactly what we did. So we took those experiences of those three locations and we just went to understand how we are going to build out the next nine locations. And we didn't know we were going to have nine locations, but we knew we had a development plan to do 12 and we just figured we would do it. And so we would keep going as long as we were making good decisions. Three locations open, we didn't make every great decision. I want to tell you about some of the things that we did at that point that really helped us accelerate our growth on the last nine stores, nine locations. So what we did is mistakes that we made, we hired a person that to help us oversee the projects, oversee the leasing, and oversee the business model. And they were basically a director of operations. They were doing everything that we didn't want to do in the business, which was about everything. We wanted to provide them insight and help, and we wanted to be the board of directors. And we'd have conference calls with them once a week. And what we did is we burned the number one out. So manager number one burned them out because they had four different bosses telling them four different things, no real direction. And beyond all that, we were giving them, we hired the wrong person. It wasn't their fault that they didn't make it. It was our fault they didn't make it because we hired the wrong person. They didn't have that owner's mentality. They didn't have the hunger. They didn't have the ability or the experience to be able to do what we asked of them, which is basically to build the business for us. So we didn't quite understand that at the time. We just figured we just had the wrong person. It was their fault. So we needed to hire somebody else. And so that's what we did. We hired manager number two. There's a theme here: three locations, three managers. So manager number two didn't work out any better. I made them cry. I learned things that I should do to not be so harsh on people, which is a big lesson that I learned at that time. And one of my partners called me out of that, which I still remember today. And that's why I'm telling you, and I'm thankful for that. There's things that we did as a partnership group that set them up for failure as well. And it wasn't completely their fault. They were in the wrong position. They didn't have the ability to do what we asked of them. We set them up for failure. And then we recognized that at this time. So as they were kind of winding down, we knew we needed to hire somebody that had an owner's mindset, an owner's skill set, had owner's drive, and we needed to hire that person with that owner mentality. And that's what we set out to do. And it was a process, a lot of interviews, a lot of phone calls, and we ended up, after the last set of interviews, we hired our last person, first person that we wanted, but it was like the last part of the whole hiring process. We hired Mirko, and Mirko turned out to be an amazing man, amazing friend, amazing business builder, and we're still friends today. We hired him, and he had that owner's mentality, and we all knew he did, and that's why we hired him. But we didn't know it was going to happen when we got to location number 10. We didn't know it was going to happen at location number 10. And I'll tell you a little bit of the growth, and then I'll tell you what actually happened, which was a shock, but not so much a shock to us. And then how we handled that, and then what came of how we handled that, which is super, super interesting. So he took us, he's like, guys, don't worry about it. I've got it covered. You got three locations open. We're going to get to 12, and this is how we're going to do it. He took over banking relationships. He took over employee management. He took over the finances. He took over everything. And we were like, this is so great. So now I'm living the 4-hour work week, and so are my partners. Life is good. Money's coming in. We're making money. He's making money. We're not doing anything. He's just giving us the leases and telling us how they've been negotiated. And they were better negotiated with him than they were with us. So we just kept going and going and going. And then he sent an email. Hey guys, can we talk? I remember getting a call from my one partner or text, and he said, this is it. We know, basically, we know he's moving on, and we knew it wasn't going to be a fun call. And so we all get on. We had I think about 10 locations open up at the time. Living the 4-hour work week. Life is really, really good. And he said, guys, I've learned a lot from you. You hired me to build these locations for you, 10 of them. And we're just about done with that. And you guys haven't had to lift a finger. While you haven't been lifting a finger, you've been living that 4-hour work week. I've been learning the business, building relationships. And this is exactly what he said, but this is what he said. I've been building relationships. I know this business better than you guys know this business. I know the levers to pull. I know the things to do. I know how to make it successful. And you guys are living the 4-hour work week. And you guys have been incredible mentors to me on business and helping me with this. I will find my replacement, and I will not leave you guys too soon, but I'm going to go and build my own. And I've got investors to do it. And we're like, oh my gosh. We knew he was smart. We knew he was smarter than we thought he was, because we knew that. And we knew he had the owner's mindset. And this is what entrepreneurs do. And he's doing exactly what any of us owners would have done. The four of us owners would have done the exact same thing: learn the business, own the business, and then go out and do it yourself. Don't get a job to get a wage, or get a job to learn a skill to help you in what you eventually end up doing. And that's what he did. It was a tough couple weeks. I mean, that's the reality of it. It was a tough couple weeks, but at the end of the day, he went above and beyond in helping us transition. And it was about that time when we started to enter into negotiations to sell the franchise. to a private equity group. And that was a whole process in itself. And if we hadn't built relationship with him where he wanted to help us through this process, and if we hadn't had loyalty to him, he would have left us. None of that happened. He stayed with us. He did whatever he needed to do. He built his own business. He helped us transition, which was about a 9+ month project to sell to private equity, because that's never easy. At least, the one time that I've done it, it wasn't easy. And I've heard it's not easy. And he knew everything about the business. So he transitioned the whole thing for us. We got the deal done, and he's still growing that brand today. So, why do I share all this? It's because, one, if you are out there thinking about buying a franchise and you're wondering how to build it, this is one strategy to do it. And you might be working for somebody and have that owner's mindset. And, Miracle did it the right way. So don't get a job just to get a job to learn a skill. The other thing that I wanted to take away from this is just, doing the right thing for people. At the end of the day, we are in the people business. I always had a bunch of respect for Mirko. I knew how smart he was and just what a good guy he was. It would have really, really hurt us financially, and just how much effort we had to put into work to put the businesses, build it to a point where we could sell it. But he handled all that for us. And it was because of the relationship that we had with him. So many lessons that came out of this, partnership lessons. But the biggest thing I think for everyone here, if you have that first location that you have right now, and it's the dog, it's my second location, it's the one that you can't get profitable no matter what, doesn't mean you have a bad franchise. It might, but it doesn't mean that you have a bad franchise. It might mean a lot of other things that are within your control. So just know that. And if you have that first location where you are just doing incredible, and yet a lot of the different franchisees in your market, neighboring markets, or in the brand are really struggling, maybe you do have a unicorn. Don't think it's all you. It might be the location. There might be something about that. Take advantage of that and learn why. But don't just assume that location number two is going to just be incredible, like location number one. You can look at that all kinds of different ways, but hopefully this helps some of you out there that are in the middle of building, growing, scaling. And by the way, if you are looking to be around like-minded entrepreneurs like me and others who are in franchising, have positive mindsets, aren't just in it to complain, you might want to check out the Franchise Tribe. It's a mastermind that I have, where it's a group of franchisees, only franchisees, bringing some really cool guests in there to help us. You'll meet some great friends in there, people that help you, all kinds of different industries, from people that are just getting started in service based to fitness to beauty, to people that have very, very successful, incredibly successful multi-brand franchises. So why don't you guys check that out, and I will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.